Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Over the last several months, I've addressed the highly unethical behavior, and not only several months, but actually several years, of Esmeralda Soria, Miguel Arias, recently Tyler Maxwell, and Nelson Esparza in relation to Granite Park, and their attempts to give Esmeralda Soria's fiancé, Terrence Frazier, $4.2 million when the city owed him absolutely nothing. I exposed the fundraiser that Frazier put on for Arias the night before the vote they were going to give Frazier millions of dollars. I've addressed the over $250,000 of purchasing COVID masks from one vendor, MPG Global, by Arias, Soria, and Esparza, and raised the issue as to whether or not Mr. Frazier, her fiancé, Soria's fiancé, personally profited from the purchasing of these masks by these three council members. That answer has not been given by Soria or Frazier to date. Today, I'm exposing the unethical and corrupt spending by Arias, Soria, Maxwell, and Esparza of taxpayer monies through their district budgets, and what have really become nothing more than slush funds for their personal and political gain. You all have a 74-page handout of credit card charges. Here it is. You all have that. And these are the expenditures from all 7 districts over the last 3 years. You also have invoices backing up many of the charges and expenditures I'm going to expose and report on. And these are all the invoices that we have spent days going through. But first, some brief background. Council members each have an absurd amount of money in their operating budget, which consists of $700,000, and this amount has dramatically increased each year. There is incredibly minimal to no oversight of these expenditures. Council members can hire any number of employees, and some have as many as 4, 5, or 6 employees, and numerous interns that come and go as well. Every council member has a city credit card except me. I declined, don't need one, didn't want one. So I don't have one and have never had one. 4 council members, Arias, Soria, Esparza, and Maxwell, have blatantly used their credit cards and operating budgets as slush funds. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on restaurants, meals, consultants, gifting of public funds, creating campaign brochures, campaign materials, direct mailings, and have tens of thousands of dollars in unexplained charges from major retail companies like Amazon, like Walmart, like Costco. To put this abuse into context, the 5 Fresno County Board of Supervisors have absolutely no credit cards. They consequently do not purchase any meals using taxpayer money, none. They never spend taxpayer money on meals. And any expenditure must be approved by their county council or the board itself to have that expenditure approved. Otherwise, there are no other expenditures. Their budget simply consists of their 2 employees. Their budgets essentially cover those employees, and that's it. Board of Supervisors get a stipend for their meals and gas. And guess what? Every council member gets a $5,000 a year stipend for meals, gas, or anything else they want to utilize that money for. Council members also make $80,000 per year. And I think they can afford to pay their own lunches and meals rather than have the taxpayers pay for it. What you will see as I go through these invoices, and you go through those invoices and credit card charges, is the power of dishonest and unethical incumbents using taxpayer money as district slush funds for their own personal and political gain and to promote themselves, often attempting to buy votes through festivals and events they put together, give gifts, give away food, and spend money on what essentially are campaign materials. Let me go through just some of the egregious examples by district. And again, they're all in your packets, plus more. Esmeralda Soria, District 1. She spent $6,600 for restaurants and meals over a 3-year period. She spends almost $2,000 on flowers. She sends out birthday flowers. Her staff sends her birthday flowers. She attends the Grizzly Suite and caters it on the taxpayer dime for over $1,100. Now, I've gone to the Grizzly Suite and taken my staff out. You know what? I paid for it myself. Never thought to put it on the taxpayer dime. She took her staff out for a Christmas dinner party, I believe it was at Max's, for almost $1,000 at $65 a plate. She sends her interns to movies. She's rented porta potties for all of her events for $1,000. She gives away turkeys for $900. She gives away pumpkins for $3,000. She has 6 graduation gift cards. I don't know who's graduating, but they're at $75 each for 6 of them. She catered a food event for one of her events for $32.75, $3,300. She has disc jockeys she pays for. She did a 20,000 piece mailer, and it cost the taxpayers $9,500. She did photography for $500 for a December holiday gift giveaway. So where she was giving gifts away, she wanted to photograph it. And I'm sure it was to let everyone know how much she's doing for her district. She bought $500 for T-shirts. She has an Apple iTunes subscription on the taxpayer dime. She paid $400 for photography for an event. She paid $362 for cookies. Now, this was at a company called Pure Aesthetics, which is an eyelash salon place, which was very confusing. We finally got them to say, yeah, they also bake cookies, I guess. And she left a $47 tip for the cookies, which was very generous of her on the taxpayer dime. We, of course, know that several years ago she took a trip for $2,400 to visit Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with Miguel Arias to do their pilgrimage to their socialist hero. That was on the taxpayer dime. She, of course, spent almost $67,000 for COVID masks for one vendor, MPG Global, as I've already talked about. Now, that's over $100,000, and there are many other charges that have no backup, no records, no documentation regarding the charges, yet the city paid them. And that's in violation, by the way, of their administrative order, which is you're supposed to have backup for everything. District 3, Miguel Arias. He paid Dr. Graphics $66,334 for promotional items. What are these promotional items? They're magnets, T-shirts, tote bags, door hangers, banners, a pop-up canopy, stickers, lapel pins. Kind of sounds like a campaign. I think most people who campaign buy those kinds of things. Also included newsletters, table covers, and something called annual reports. $66,000 for magnets, T-shirts, tote bags, and so on. He has a consultant that he paid who's now apparently on his staff, $40,000. She apparently is a community engagement specialist. And for $40,000, he hired her, paid her $25 an hour. Now, I have 2 community engagement specialists, too. It's called a chief of staff and an assistant. He also loved going to Grizzlies Stadium and catering it for the tune of $2,100. He spent $7,400 for restaurants and meals, despite getting a stipend and making $80,000. He felt it was important to put it on the taxpayer's back. He had a catering bill for an event of $971. He also likes to rent toilets for his events, and that cost $1,600. Now, interestingly enough, he also likes to buy computers on the taxpayer dime. He's bought 3 or 4 of them. One Dell laptop for $378. He's bought AirPods for $216. An iMac computer for $1,565. A touchscreen laptop for $868. He has a Microsoft subscription for $365. He has Apple charges for keyboards for his iPads, $378 and $269. Now, what's also most egregious about this, none of these computers have been tagged by the city. The city did not know that he had purchased all of these computers. What does that mean? He sent one to an employee's home. All of these computers could have been bought cheaply if he had gone through the city. He didn't do it. No tag by the city of Fresno meant that he could have purchased these computers and they could have been stolen or simply kept. And also importantly, he's not working on city service. So those computers, whether they're working here or not, are not protected by the city service. He's also spent money for ice cream event. And of course, we know he spent $160,000 for MPG Global, exceeding the Fresno Municipal Code as well as violating the city charter requirements. All of that I outlined, $283,000. Tyler Maxwell. Now, Tyler has been here for 1 year, but he's learned their game quite well. Now, Tyler likes to throw events in his district. He has things called the Fall Fest, Beat the Heat, Welcome to the Circus, Make a Splash Extravaganza, Island Party and Live Music, and Operation Gobble. All of this cost thousands of dollars in gifts of food, candy, toys, even bicycles he bought and gave them away. He buys gifts. Now, it's difficult to determine the exact amount because of the poor records. So again, there's no backup for any of these events, for the most part, except I did find his bicycles that he bought and gave away. So he holds these events. He looks like he's Santa Claus on steroids, giving out all kinds of gifts on the taxpayer dime, and all he's doing is promoting himself. Now, Tyler, not done doing that, created this beautiful 16-page glossy booklet that he intended to have his staff, who is paid by the taxpayers, deliver to homes. Now, he called this on the dais a newsletter. The fact is, it isn't a newsletter. It's a 16-page, slick, color, glossy brochure. And by his stating that he was having them hand-delivered to people in their homes, violated all the mass mailing laws. By the way, he also has his campaign logo on the front of the brochure that was paid for by taxpayer dollars. Now, this thing, there are printing and binding charges for $8,500. There's $1,400 for photography. And by the way, he has beautiful photographs of himself throughout the thing. So I want to play a 30-second video of Tyler Maxwell congratulating himself on this taxpayer-funded 16-page color glossy brochure that he called a newsletter. Go ahead.
Check out the casino, provide any feedback, or ask any questions that you have. And lastly, I'm proud to announce that my office has produced our 2021 Year in Review newsletter that my staff is currently out hand-delivering to every house in our district. It outlines our policy achievements over the last year, our infrastructure achievements, and where we hope to go in 2022. So if any of my colleagues want a signed copy, be happy to provide that for you to commemorate this beautiful year that we have put behind us. Thank you.
Now, this newsletter that he refers to, as I said, is a 16-page glossy that probably cost $9,000. Don't know because it doesn't break it down as just a charge. And as you heard him say himself, his staff on taxpayer dime was handing them out to every home. That violates the mass mailing laws. I asked our city attorney. He said, yes, they can't do that. And then he went and told Mr. Maxwell, you can't do that. And Mr. Maxwell apparently said, well, we'll hand them out at corners. But that's how emboldened these folks are. That's the level of arrogance and stupidity that goes on down here. Taxpayer-funded brochures. Now, he also has other charges. Graphic design for $5,000. Other printing charges for $1,000. He likes to go to the Grizzly Suite too and have the city pay for it, the taxpayer, $1,000. He bought a canopy. They have the canopies with their name and promotion, $1,800. In 1 year, he spent $2,900 on his restaurant and meals. So if we did 3 years, he'd be at almost $9,000. Amazon charges, no backup. And also, he decided to purchase himself a Christmas sweater on the taxpayer dime for $61. Again, much we can account for and much we cannot account for because of no receipts, no backup. Now, Mr. Sparza, the new council president, when he became the council president, he wanted to honor himself. So he threw himself a bash outside City Hall for $2,300 on the taxpayer dime. Very nice event. He's very generous with himself. He also hired a company for $4,000 to create a logo for the council president. It's unbelievable. $4,000, and it's called brand development and a council president logo. Now, the other thing he loves to do is he loves to give kids candy apples. He held 2 Halloween events, and he spent nearly $4,000 on candy apples. Is that really what city dollars are supposed to be used for? I think not. $3,675. He bought himself a Samsung 50-inch color LED TV, and it's hanging on his wall in his office here. He, too, loves to eat at Grizzly Stadium and at the suite. $1,700 for food catering at the Grizzly Stadium at Chachansey Park. Now, he doesn't just like regular porta potties. He went for the mobile luxury porta potties for $600. He did a Beat the Heat event for $3,000 to $4,000. Hard to determine exactly how much. He had an inflatable fun jump event, $800. And he also bought $2,800 for Christmas tote bags. Christmas tote bags. He had $707 for door hangers to advertise the Beat the Heat event. Now, how did the door hangers get put on doors? I suspect he wasn't doing it himself, and he might have had city staff, his interns or his employees doing that. $1,000 for another event for food. He loves also graphics. He spent $3,460 for graphics for a postcard, a public service announcement, a mailer. $6,644 for a 16,000-piece mailer. There's no evidence of what that mailer is, and if you have your picture on the mailer, it's a violation of the mailing laws. But we have no evidence of what it was. All we have is a bill. He did, interestingly enough, a Tyler Maxwell mailer for $1,728. Why he paid for a Tyler Maxwell mailer out of his district funds, I have no idea. He did a town hall flyer for $4,000, a print and mail mailer for $39.37. Don't know what that was for. $4,600 for Fresno Trade binding and mailing. $2,600 for professional print and mail. $3,000 for a website that you can't pull up now. He did it. We tried to pull it up. You can't get it. But he spent $3,000 on it. He also likes to pay Facebook charges of $2,100 and put that on the taxpayer dollar. He had a stage for $663, a party rentals for $544. For $7,000, he did a PSA and radio spots. For $3,400, he has a consultant for outreach and mailing. For $1,541, he has a canopy. His was a little cheaper than the others. And of course, he bought $33,000 in masks for MPG Global. And his restaurant and meals were $3,000. So this is just some of the outrageous expenditures that these council members have done for their own personal and political gain. Now, what do we do about it? Well, I'm putting 2 items on next week's agenda. I'm seeking an outside, independent, forensic audit, a forensic audit of all council budgets and expenditures over the last 3 years. There is still much to learn about these expenditures, and a forensic audit will assist in that effort. I believe the mayor is interested in pursuing this as well, and if the council refuses to approve it, I believe the mayor and I will pay for the audit should it exceed $50,000. The second item on the agenda is directing the city control and the city manager to rescind all council credit cards as well as their chief of staff credit cards. Let me be clear about something. The prior mayoral administration failed to meet their fiduciary responsibilities to the taxpayers of this city, and in fact were complicit in the waste and abuse of taxpayer money through the increasing of these budgets and the lack of oversight of these slush funds. The Dyer administration must do better, and I know they will. The city manager and the administration must rescind all of these credit cards immediately. Again, no other municipality locally is using credit cards. The city of Clovis is not using credit cards. The Board of Supervisors, which is responsible for 1 million constituents, nearly twice as much as ours, don't do any of this. There should only be 2 employees per district, not 3 to 6, just like with the County of Board of Supervisors that have 1 million constituents. And that's the way it was for many, many years until people started getting all of these funds and then hiring interns and then hiring more employees. There should be no more taxpayer-funded reimbursements for meals or restaurant charges by council members. Council members already receive stipends for meals and other expenses, and all they're doing is double dipping and eating lavishly on the back of their constituents and taxpayers. Each council district budget should revert back to $250,000, not $700,000, to cover 2 employees and some nominal office expenses. This would result in a savings of $3.1 million annually. These dollars should be used for streets, sidewalks, tree trimming, police, fire, providing services to our constituents, not used as personal and political slush funds, which is what is being done right now. And lastly, any future proposed expenditure should be submitted to the city manager for approval, then the city attorney for legality if necessary, and then bring it to the council, just like is done at the Board of Supervisors. These folks have forgotten who they work for. They think they were elected kings and queens, and that this is their personal slush funds. It is not. This is the taxpayer money. We ought to respect it. We ought to respect them, and that's not happening. And I'm not going to sit silently as this continues to go on. And again, I'm calling on the mayor, the city manager, the controller to do what's right, pull these cards back, and stand tall against this kind of outrageous conduct. I'm ready for any questions.
Councilman, was any law or policy violated?
Well, I think there's an administrative order regarding credit cards. They all signed when they took this credit card, and it says it's supposed to be only used for business expenses. I don't know that $4,000 in candy apples is business. I don't know that $66,000 in promotional materials, magnets, tote bags, door hangers is the use for that. I don't know that taking your staff out to $65 a plate. I'm not sure how many people in some of these districts can afford $65 a plate at 9 people. But yes, I think they violated the administrative order. Is there a law? I don't know. Is that a violation of mass mailing laws? That I do know it is. We don't know about the others who have done 20,000 mailers and 16,000 mailers because we don't see it. They just submitted a charge, and foolishly, it's been paid.
So what's the criticism of these community events in the park that the entire community, all taxpayers, all citizens are invited to? It sounds like you're criticizing, the event you criticized Story for taking pictures with Santa Claus.
Yes. If you want to hire a photographer, what's the point of hiring photographers to do your Christmas giveaways? They all have campaign funds, right? I have campaign funds. If I want to donate, I can do it out of my own pocket, which I do, or I can use my own campaign funds. I would never think to hire photographers for turkey giveaways and all these other things. What it ends up being is what you saw in the brochure, because that's exactly what Maxwell did. He had all his 5 events. He photographed all of them. He put it into a brochure that he called a newsletter and was going to hand it out to everybody in his district. You don't think that's campaigning? If you don't think that's campaigning, we got to do an IQ test.
And Councilmember, so are the credit card charges on top of the $700,000 operating budget, or are they part of it?
They're part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, all the credit card charges are what they're allowed to do in their $700,000 budget. And again, there's no oversight for any of this. There's supposed to be oversight. You're not supposed to get reimbursed unless you have receipts and backup. That has not been happening. That needs to change like yesterday.
And so, I know you have mentioned that you don't use the city credit card.
I don't have one.
Yes. So what do you do with your money?
You mean the district money? We fix sidewalks, and we trim trees, and we do the things that the money is supposed to be used for. Now, all of us have also donated to charities. I've donated to charities, absolutely. And I'm not so sure that we should be allowed to do that as well. We all have campaign funds. I've donated out of them. I've clearly donated out of my personal funds. So I think even that needs to be looked at as well. I believe that we should follow the lead of other municipalities and government agencies that respect the taxpayer. And I will certainly differ with the county on a number of things, but they are not allowed to do any of this. There are no such expenditures that I've outlined for you here. I could not give you a thick stack of their credit card charges and all of that. When they go to lunches, they're paying out of their own pocket, which is what I do. Or if it's a political event, I will use my campaign funds. But I have never thought to put these bills and meals on the taxpayer dime. I've never seen a need for credit cards, and I don't know. I don't know how other municipalities do it.
Can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the timing of the press conference and the agenda items? I mean, these council members, most of them have been on the dais for more than 1 year with the exception of Taylor Maxwell. So,
No, he's been on for more than a year.
yeah, so why are you bringing it up now?
Well, I finally took a look at what's going on. I requested these records and had no idea. I did not know that they were all putting these meals on their credit cards. I had no idea because I just never saw a need for it, so I didn't even think about it. But then I started hearing some things about this stuff, and so I requested this. And we got a lot of information. We spent many days and weeks going through all of these records, and quite honestly, it was shocking. And anybody that I share this with, they're shocked by this. So that's why. Simply didn't know this was going on. I mean, why would I? They wouldn't tell me. I wasn't asking. I wasn't investigating. But as soon as I started looking, what you see is an ugly picture. You had a question.
You had mentioned that you spent time looking over these invoices. If you weren't doing this at this time, what other activities or what other things would you be doing with your time if you weren't pouring all your time looking over these invoices and these receipts?
Well, I might be relaxing a little bit more, which is something I don't do very much. But let me tell you something. I think this is probably one of the most important things, because if we can save $3.1 million annually and remove these slush funds, I will have done a lot for the city of Fresno and the taxpayers. This needs to change. If this doesn't change, this will go on for decades. And right now, you have a gang of four. I call them the corrupt gang of four. And they protect each other. They look out for each other. We saw that when they were investigated by the district attorney. Nobody would talk about the Brown Act. So they protect each other all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull these items off the agenda, which is fine. I'm prepared for that always with this gang. But you are never going to turn this around until people speak up. You shine a light on it. As they say, light is a great disinfectant, and it certainly is with this corrupt gang of four. You had a question?
Yes, did you pull the records for Carbasi and Chavez?
Absolutely. And they're not, the reason why I didn't bring them here, they're not as egregious as the other four. Are there expenditures? There's expenditures. And I gave them all to you. You can access through our financial records anything you want. You can access my records, Carbasi, anyone else, and you should. And that's why I'm calling for a financial audit of all of the districts, all of the councils. And it needs to be a forensic audit. They need somebody who's going to really know how to dig in, because I'll tell you, these people have submitted claims for thousands of dollars with absolutely no backup. None. You don't know what it's for. They put a mailer in here for $10,000. You don't know what it's for. You don't know if their picture is all over the mailer. You don't know if it's a campaign mailer or it's something else. But you have to question, where is it? The administration should go back and find this. And honestly, Tyler Maxwell should reimburse the taxpayers for this. This is total fraud. He can say it's his year-end review and it's a newsletter. Does this look like a newsletter to anybody here? This is a 16-page glossy, color, for $6,000 to $9,000. That's what he's doing with all of his events.
So each district gets $700,000?
Yes,
Okay, what happens to the rest of the money if it isn't all spent?
it can carry over.
Okay, so then the following year, they would have more than
Sure.
$700,000 to work with? Or
Sure.
would that go into a general fund?
No, the funds, as my understanding is, it carries over monies that are not spent.
What is the time frame for this, excluding Maxwell, Councilmember Maxwell? What is the time?
These are 3 years. And you can see on this, it's 2020, 2021, 2022, and it's got all the expenditures on here. So I invite you, if you're not relaxing, to spend time doing this. It's a lot of fun, and you will be shocked. You will be shocked. You only wish you could charge like they do.
How long has the council budget been $700,000?
Just recently, just bumped it to $150,000. And let me tell you the clever thing. They attach it to 9 or 10 other items. So, for example, they had police, they had fire. Well, I'm not going to vote against the police. I'm not going to vote against fire. I'm going to give them the resources, but they won't separate it by a line item. So you end up having to vote for it. Okay, you hold your nose and you vote for it. But it's outrageous. And there are many times I want to separate things, and they refuse to do so.
So with the needs of each district being different, right? I mean, you mentioned certain amounts of money being spent on turkeys, on pumpkins. That's not necessarily going to be as big of a giveaway in one district versus another. They were focusing on community needs, it sounds like, when you mentioned candy apples. What do you want to say about these community events?
I have no problem with community events. I attend many community events. I just don't think the taxpayers should be funding these things, which are nothing more than their efforts to buy votes from people. I don't think taxpayers should be funding 4,000 candy apples. I would hope most people think that that's pretty insane. I don't think they should be funding magnets and tote bags, Christmas sweaters, computers that are not tagged in the city of Fresno, and a whole host of things that I've gone through. And that's what they're doing. It's wrong. Whether it's legal or not, I'll leave that to other people. But clearly the mass mailing laws, they are violating. He was violating it just by simply what he said. He said, we are already out handing them door to door. That's a mass mailing violation.
Have you ever hosted bounce house type events or family community events in District 6?
I've never paid for any of that. No.
Have you hosted them and paid for them from another source?
No. Possibly, and there's no problem with that. But let me tell you, Dave, I do lots of events in the district. I attend lots of events. I support a lot of events, but I would never think to fund an event out of taxpayer money. The taxpayer money, if they're clueless as to what it's about, it's to make sure the garbage is picked up and the city is safe and the streets are repaired. And we have tremendous needs, as we all know, throughout the entire city. And $3.1 million can go for a lot of things. And I'm not sure their constituents want candy corn. I'm not sure. I think they'd rather have a police show up. Or how about when they dial 911, they don't wait 15 or 20 minutes on the phone, because those problems aren't fixed. But these guys are not worried about that.
Now, the procedure for an audit, do you need council permission or can?
Well, I'm directing it. They probably will pull the item because they don't want what they've been doing to see the light of day. But if necessary, I will pay for it myself. I think it's a good use of funds to have an audit to see what's going on down here. And I've spoken to the mayor. I think the mayor is supportive of that, and we'll go from there.
How does the city's internal audit process work? Is it just called for by a mayor or councilman?
Well, it's up to them, or a council can direct audit. We've had the city audit the police department, the fire department, but I think what's important in this situation is that it be an outside, independent forensic audit. I think it shouldn't be by somebody done here.
And when you say you pay for it, does that mean out of your district's operating?
Yes, we would use it out of the district budget, or as the mayor and I have talked about, he may be using funds as well.
And how much money would it cost?
Oh, I don't know. We'd have to look. I have no idea what such an audit would cost.
If it surpasses $50,000, I mean,
I would
is
bring-
that something that you would say, hey, maybe it's not worth spending?
No, I think it's very worth spending, absolutely worth spending. And if it exceeded $50,000, I've already talked with the mayor. The mayor has funds that he would be willing to use. We had a discussion about that. And so there's a way to get it done. It needs to be done. People need to know what's going on in this building. And it's not a pretty picture what these 4 council members are doing on many things.
If the items are pulled off the agenda, what authority does the does the mayor and city manager have on this kind of spending since the council approves?
Yeah, I mean, with 4 council members, and you have a gang of 4 right now, they could continue this. They could add another $150,000 in 6 months from now. And they've been doing it. So part of the thing is exposure. I think part of it is the mayor also speaking out on this. I think part of it is also his administration. And I think part of it is the media saying, is this okay? I mean, do you think this is okay?
So is there anything that does the city manager or the mayor really have is there any tools at their disposal to combat this kind of spending?
Well, I think the mayor has the biggest podium, the biggest microphone, and I think he can do a lot by saying how wrong all of this is. I think we have 2 branches of government, and we can fight back over budget items, and I think the mayor needs to do that. I'm fully supportive of bringing this back to 250. There is no reason, and mind you, these 4 will justify this. They will come up with all kinds of rationalizations, how they're doing such great work in the community. And as Tyler Maxwell said to me once, I'm just giving people back their money. Well, I think they'd rather have a check than a bag of candy corn. I just think so.
Councilmember, what are people saying in these districts? What is the community reaction to these type of events? Is it drawing families together? Is it promoting goodwill throughout the community?
These events that they're doing, I'm sure it is. I don't have any problem with the fact that they want to do community events. I have a problem with they're using taxpayer money to buy gifts. And really, I think it's unseemly. I think when you're purchasing bicycles and giving away gifts and food on the taxpayer dime, it's not being done anywhere else. The county board of supervisors that are responsible for people in the city and in the county, the city of Clovis, and others are not doing any of this. This is wrong. And I would hope that people would see it as wrong. Now, there'll be people who do wrong things and justify it, rationalize it, make up all kinds of things, call things newsletters that are 16-page glossy booklets. If you think this is okay, great. Then you think it's okay. I happen to think it's outrageous. And I think these are nothing more than slush funds for their own political gain. And, as people who want to hold future offices look at this, I think they got to say this is really unseemly. And does it place people who want to come to this building in an unfair advantage when they're using taxpayer money to send out mailers and brochures and PSAs and magnets and candy apples and everything else. I think it does.
And council members, you're talking about your council colleagues, and what about the city manager and the mayor's office? You know, the mayor is an elected official. Can you talk about his spending or whether he has this kind of leeway with?
No, I can't. We didn't look at the mayor's spending. I do know that when they said goodbye to the former city manager, it was at Chachansey Park. I was there. There were a lot of people there. It was a big spread, and they told me they paid for it out of their own pocket, the mayor and the city manager. Well, what do you know? They could do that. And that's the way it should have been done. And that's not the way it's done on the council level. But then you're talking about two people who have some integrity and ethics versus four that don't.
Say that, but I took a look at those numbers. Carvasi spent $1,000 on restaurants. Chavez spent money on travel.
Well, I don't know what the travel is. I mean, if people go to travel for business, I have no problem with that.
Can you elaborate any further on what the city lawyer said about the illegal campaign?
Well, when I told him what he just said, he said that violates the mass mailing law. You can't do that. And so he apparently told Mr. Maxwell, you can't do that. And I'm told by the city attorney, Maxwell said, okay, we'll just hand them out at street corners. So I don't know if you've seen him out at a street corner. I haven't seen him out there.
So is the city attorney going to pursue this?
Pursue what?
Any violation of the mass mailing law?
The city attorney is never going to pursue any violations because he's in a difficult position. He would be filing it against his employers. So that's not going to happen.
And we know that Lisa Smitkamp's position on this, so
We know Lisa Smitkamp's position on what?
on internal city violations, she's not going to prosecute them.
Well, I don't know what she's going to prosecute.
That's what she said last week.
Well, she said what was in that 4-page mailer, in that 4-page press release. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, she said that any city matter should be left up to the city attorney. And
Right.
the city attorney said he's not going to prosecute.
Okay.
So what's your suggestion to hold?
People can file. I'm holding to account right now, today. I'm exposing it. And the media has a role as well. All of you are responsible to make sure we're accountable, right? That's your role. And so I hope that you do that. I hope you ask the questions. You're asking me the questions. Are those community events worth it? Those are fair questions. And I think these people need to be asked, let me see your mailer that you sent out 20,000 pieces. I'd like to see that. Let me see the receipts for all the magnets and everything that you're purchasing for $66,000. Those are the questions that I think need to be asked of people who are using this as slush funds. And I think we got to ask, is it really city business to be spending $4,000 on candy apples? I think not.
Do other city employees have access to a credit card, and what are their responsibilities?
Yeah, there are plenty of city employees that have access to credit cards, and there's an administrative order that everybody has to follow through. Now, one of the things that the administrative order says is that you can only use your credit card for business. I would challenge that much of this is not city business, but really political and personal gain. Go ahead.
And do they have to show receipts?
Absolutely. It says it in the administrative order. Every expenditure has to have receipts. And I would say 80% of what I've seen has no receipts, no backup at all, because we asked for it.
So if this audit goes through and they find out everything that you've been talking about, what's the next step after that audit?
Well, I think that's something that we have to take a look at. First, we find out what they find. But they will find everything I outlined for you because you have it in your packet. Everything I outlined is in your packet. But there's much more that I can't outline for you because there's no backup.
If we were to email your office, would we be able to get the financial information compiled, your financial information compiled such in this way? Would it be available?
I'm not sure what you mean by your
You're
financial.
operating, I guess, financial records.
You can pursue them from the finance department, from the city controller. I don't have access to them.
Right, but could we email your office to get them compiled in such a way like this?
Get the backups.
Well, we would have to put it together for you, but
I mean, if you're doing it for all these other ones, wouldn't it be
look,
comparison points? Wouldn't that be fair?
here, absolutely. And you have here, my district is in here. District 6 is in here. That's why I said all 7 districts are in here. If there's anything you want a backup for, you can request it. I don't think there's much you're going to want from me. But all the districts are in this 70-page document. Yes. Yes. A couple of them. Councilman Carbasi, Councilmember Chavez. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I have tremendous respect for both of those council members. Yep. No, I haven't talked to them, but I rarely do. I don't know why, but I just don't.
Yeah, and Councilmember, what would you say, to people who would say that this is like political? You've made it pretty clear, like you don't agree with these 4 council members politically. So what would your response be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say look at what I present. I did 2 op-eds. I outlined Esmeralda Soria walking out of a vote September 2015, the first time they awarded her now fiancé, Terrence Frazier, a contract. She was at the city council all day long. She left for that one vote, which was a half hour. She was there before, and she came back after. Why? She publicly announced in 2017 they were an item, but she left that vote. And when you leave a vote, you're supposed to declare why. She gave a loan to Terrence Frazier. I pointed that out on her 700 form. Why? She's in debt over $100,000. She's publicly talked about it. How much was she paid for the return? What was the interest rate? Don't know. Those are all facts. Her colleagues, her good buddies, tried to give him $4.3 million. The city owes him nothing. The day before, Arias had a fundraiser in his home with her and Terrence Frazier. Those are all facts. Now, if everyone's fine with that, that's fine. I'm not fine with that. There was an allegation of a Brown Act violation. I didn't bring that allegation. The former city manager apparently did. We talked about the masks. I outlined very clearly that Arias went up and down this floor trying to get everyone to buy these masks from MPG Global, one provider, for almost $300,000, while we had 13 different city departments that spent on 20 different vendors. Why? I mean, it's very interesting. He was willing to violate the city charter and the municipal code, as was Soria, violate the municipal code, to go to this one vendor who came from L.A., sold them masks only to these people, and then as soon as Arias was done buying them, left. Did her boyfriend, fiance, profit? Do we know? Have they answered? I can tell you this. If somebody accused me of something that wasn't true, I would publicly say, it's not true.
So what information, evidence do you have there's a connection between Terrence Frazier?
I don't.
Then why bring it up?
Because I think there may be. And let me ask you something. Why don't you find out if there is? You're a reporter. Your job is to find out the facts. Okay. I've said it publicly then. I'm going to say it tomorrow. And I said it a while ago.
What's your backup? What's your evidence on this?
I didn't say they had one. I raised the question. I'm raising the question. Did he personally profit? That's the question.
It sounds like you're throwing that out in the air. You say, did anybody personally profit? So you must know something, or you think you know something that connects them. What is it?
I'm raising the question. And that's what I'm going to tell you, David. And I would encourage you to find out if there is one. Because perhaps there might be. And perhaps there might not be. But perhaps there might be.
It sounds very much like an assumption.
Well, why don't you find out?
If it is a question.
Why don't you ask Councilmember Soria, did her fiance personally profit from the sale of masks from MPG Global? And then follow up that question. And why don't you ask her fiance about it? And why don't you ask why they went to Mexico to get married but didn't get married? Why don't you ask? There's no curiosity about any of this? No, she's an elected official. He's got business with the city of Fresno, and he's suing the city of Fresno for $10 million. It's not just personal business. He's profiting from relationships with the city of Fresno. And if they're married, it has implications for whether or not the city of Fresno can do business with him. So, no, it's not just a personal question. These are people who are running for assembly and aren't being vetted, in my humble opinion, by the media, and frankly have been given a pass. And I hope they're not given a pass with this stuff, because you can, take their talking points that this is just Garry Bredefeld who doesn't like them, but it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with everything that Garry Bredefeld doesn't like corruption, and he doesn't like people using slush funds where no one else in Fresno County is doing this, except in the city of Fresno. So there are plenty of questions, and I would encourage people to read my op-eds because I raised the questions that I think the media needs to ask that haven't been fully asked and certainly haven't been fully answered. Thank you all for coming. And if you have any more questions for me after my colleagues give their opinions, please feel free to let me know. Again, appreciate all of this is in your packets. Thank you.